Here we are with the Democratic ticket for 2010, Governor Ted Strickland and his running mate, Yvette McGee Brown. Good to see both of you.
Good to see you.
Governor, let me ask you first question here. What have you not accomplished in 4 years where you're asking Ohio voters to give you another 4 for a total of 8? What is left undone?
Oh, there's much left undone. Of course, we need to create jobs. We need to continue to invest in education. We need to work to make sure that those who are most vulnerable in our state and in our society are getting all the help they need during this difficult recession. We need to continue to invest in growing sectors of our economy, the energy sector, advanced energy especially, so important. So there is much to be done. The work is never done, and nor should it be, because a state that is dynamic and progressing and moving forward should always be on the move. And so there's much to be done. I think we have accomplished some good things, but there's always more that can and should be done.
Talk to me a little bit about this choice in this ticket. Your current lieutenant governor calls you one day last year and says, "Governor, I'm going to run for the U.S. Senate." So then the process in the back of your mind obviously begins, and we end up where we had the press conference earlier this week where it was Mrs. Brown. Tell me about the process of, was it right away? Did this come about quickly, or was this a prolonged process with other names on the list?
Well, first of all, let me say that I talked with Yvette about the possibility of being my running mate well over 3.5 years ago. So Yvette is someone that I have known and admired for a long time. But I did talk with a number of people over a period of months, but I came to believe that Yvette brought the right combination of experience, education, concerns, dedication to public service, all the things that are so important, I believe, for someone to be a lieutenant governor. I also came to believe that she was the one who could travel this state, inspire our people, and really help me as we face this election. But even more important, she can help me as we continue to try to manage the state in the next term.
Yvette, you get a phone call from the governor of the state. Is your first thought like, oh, politics? Really?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, you know, my first thought was, I'm pretty happy where I am.
Right.
I have a good job. I'm doing really good work in the community, but you don't not talk to the governor when he calls. And so it really allowed me to step back and think about, you know, what I've already accomplished in my career. This is a great opportunity. I believe in Ted Strickland and what he's doing for this state, and the chance to be part of it, it was just the right time for me, and I got very excited.
The Republicans already on the attack from the day of the announcement, really the night before. Social worker, not a lot of political experience, you've heard it.
Yes.
This will be constant as part of their theme through the year. How do you respond to that, to those that say, as far as the political resume goes, being a heartbeat away from the governor's office, the Republicans are going to attack the credentials there?
Well, being governor and being lieutenant governor is about leadership. And I believe if you look at my record, I've got a record of leadership and of service. I was a judge at 32. I oversaw a court with a $20 million budget and 300 employees. When I resigned from the bench in the middle of my second term after running unopposed, I took a big risk. I left to go start the Center for Child and Family Advocacy. People didn't understand that. They didn't think it was a good move. And yet we created the center. I have a $30 million budget, 400 employees. I don't apologize for not spending all of my life in public service. I think leadership is what's most important, and I have that.
Very good. Let's talk about kind of the reality of the state with over 10% of the state unemployed, a number that has been pretty consistent for
Yes.
a while now. If you're in Athens or Van Wert or Toledo, somewhere in the state, and this campaign gets going, and you hear the Republican attack that jobs have left and jobs are not being created, your answer, as I've heard it consistently for the past few months, has been kind of Wall Street, to talk about that pivotal moment on Wall Street. But is that enough for an Ohioan who's actually out of work today, that somehow Wall Street's responsible and the buck doesn't stop with you?
I have never tried to absolve myself of responsibility for working as hard as I can work to help the people of Ohio who need employment. And I'll continue to do that. But the fact is that this problem, this recession, didn't start in Ohio. But it did start with Wall Street, and the decisions that were made there that drove this economy near the cliff. And so I'm not responsible for the recession, but I am responsible, as I've told you and others, I am responsible for the decisions that I make as governor to try to guide Ohio through this recession and to try to provide essential services for people during this time while laying the foundation for job growth into the future. And
John Kasich and his connections to Lehman Brothers seems to be a theme here, connecting him to his Wall Street activities.
That's right.
When I asked him last week after his announcement about Lehman Brothers, he quickly, it was interesting you mentioned the cliff, because he quickly said in his response that there was a good thing there's a ditch, otherwise you would have driven the state of Ohio off that cliff. Is the suggestion now that there was such bad decision making, including your opponent on Wall Street, that that's led us to where we are today? And his connection to Lehman Brothers, will that be relevant to the people of Ohio in this campaign?
Well, I think it's relevant. Everything is relevant. My record in Congress is relevant. His record in Congress is relevant. My record after leaving Congress is relevant, as is his. We both have records, and they will be fully explored and debated, and I look forward to that debate. Now, I'm not blaming John Kasich for everything that's happened to this economy, but I am blaming a culture of Wall Street that really manipulated and misused people in a way that led to this economic collapse. And we did come close to a cliff, and thankfully there was not a total meltdown, but too many Ohioans have lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their health care, and too many Ohioans, quite frankly, have lost hope. And what Yvette and I want to do is to reach out to these folks. We both came from very modest backgrounds. Neither one of us grew up with privilege, but we benefited from what Ohio provided for us, and we want to make sure that together we work to make sure that the children of our state have the advantages that we had, so that they can fulfill and pursue their dreams as we have.
This could be a negative campaign in the months ahead. Are you prepared for that?
Well, I'm prepared for it to be a challenging campaign, and I recognize that people may try to make negative comments. But I think my role with the governor is to get the message out and to tell people about our hope for the future. I don't intend to get down in the mud and start casting aspersions on the other side. I want it to be a sharing of ideas. I think the public can choose between who has the better options for us moving forward.
And on the specifics of preparation, what have you, I mean, there might be a potential debate somewhere down the line. Is that an interesting process for you?
Well, it'll be an interesting process. I read the newspaper, I read magazines, I keep up on what's going on in the state. But sure, we'll have to dive deep in preparation for any kind of debate. But you know what? I'm a lawyer. I was a judge. I know how to study and read and make decisions.
Get behind closed doors with sort of the campaign team. What is the message that you want Ohio to know, or how do you beat this trend that seems to be anti-incumbent and to a large degree anti-Democrats in Washington?
Well, you know, I think people will decide which candidate is on their side. I've done what many of my Republican critics have said they want to do for decades. I've actually reduced the size of government. There are nearly 5,000 fewer state employees than when I became governor just 3 years ago. I've made those tough decisions. And the fact is that I've been through a lot of campaigns, and there are charges and countercharges. What the people want to hear from me and from Yvette and from our challengers are these things. What are we going to do for them? How honest are we going to be? How hard are we going to work? And how deeply are we going to care for them?
And one that I asked your opponent a week ago about you. Who is John Kasich? How would you describe John Kasich to the people of Ohio?
Well, I think he is bright. I think he's brash. I think he is filled with self-confidence. I also think that he has a tendency to be somewhat reckless in his proposals. His proposal to eliminate the state's income tax, which provides more than 40% of our state's total revenue, would have a devastating effect on local government, police, fire, libraries, and I think that's an indication of the fact that sometimes he's perhaps a little overconfident and doesn't really think through his proposals carefully.
All right, very good. I'm Democratic ticket in Ohio for 2010. Governor, good to see you. Yvette McGee Brown, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more on Capitol Square.